what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast, joined as always by the indefatigable senator from Massachusetts. It's Phil A. Perry. How you doing, my guy? Plenty to kick through.
So much to kick through. No game, but so much to kick through. So let's start kicking.
Let's start kicking. First off, Tom Brady back in the spotlight. He never leaves. What are you talking about? Back in it. Now it's retirement after the 30-27 loss to the Los Angeles Rams, and it's predictable. And here's Brady's conversation with Jim Gray.
You've said you wanted to play till 45. This year you were at the top of your game. You led all the statistical categories for quarterbacks. So it's clear you can still continue to play this game at the level you want to play. You don't suck, and that's when you said you'd quit.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes down to what you just mentioned about family. Would you like a farewell tour? Would you like to be able to say goodbye? Would you like to compete one more time and know that you're taking it all in that vein, as opposed to possibly just leaving and not having that preparation?
I think that would be distracting for me. I'm really ultimate, my enjoyment comes from not a recognition of kind of what I've accomplished as a player in the league. My enjoyment comes from the competition. So more so than anything, even yesterday, I was thinking about competing. I was thinking about, this whole year about competing. I wasn't thinking about anything other than that. So when the time comes to think about post-career and second career, I'll think about those things. And it's just when you're 44, I guess you get asked about that a lot. And, a lot of people thought I was done playing football in 2015. A lot of people in 2016 said you're done. A lot of people in 2018, when I left the Patriots, they said you're done. So
you had a boss in 2000 who thought you'd never make it, so you would be done before you started.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think for me, it's every year I just have to make sure that have the ability to commit to what the team really needs. And that's really important to me. The team doesn't deserve anything less than my best. And if I feel like I'm not committed to that, or I can't play at a championship level, then you got to give someone else a chance to play. And, we'll see, again, there's a long time between now and the start of next football season. And, I've got to really figure those things out, which is probably natural for anyone. And at the same time, I would say this: we never know what's going to happen in the future. We really don't. I mean, Kobe Bryant, a friend of ours, God rest his soul. You think you're going to live forever. We're not. We think we're going to play forever. We're not. What can we do? We can enjoy the moments that we have. And as difficult as it was to lose the game yesterday, I was glad I played in it, and I was glad I was a part of it. And as challenging as the season was, I was glad I played and glad I participated, because I'm living my life and I'm not just counting the days. So my days are meaningful to me. I'm going to try to keep them meaningful to me. And, in the meantime, I'm going to do as best I can to enjoy, the time that I have not playing football, because that's equally important. Playing football, I get so much joy from. I love it. But not playing football, there's a lot of joy in that for me also now, too, with my kids getting older and seeing them develop and grow. So all these things need to be considered, and they will be. And, the funny part is I always said most guys retire and then move to Florida. I'm already in Florida, so it's really confusing even to me.
All right, Phil, let's rev up the Brady motor once again and talk retirement talk. To me, it's predictable when a guy is 44 and has accomplished what he has for the speculation to be rife. He doesn't do a hell of a lot to douse it in that interview with Jim Gray. But after the game, he literally put out a statement. And I'm not throwing literally around the way it has become thrown around in the 21st century. He literally sent a statement out with the hashtag keep going. Said there are no failures, only lessons. When you fall, you need to pick yourself up with greater enthusiasm than when you went down. Now we look back on an incredible season, learn our lessons and get up, because even greater things are coming. Hashtag keep going. What is that? Going to the beach in Tampa someplace? Is that the greater thing? They renting jet skis? Not that they rent jet skis. They own them. Phil, this does not sound like a guy who's on the cusp of retirement, but it feeds the Brady maw of conversation and Phil's time and content spaces on all of our shows.
Well, and I think he wants to at least leave the door open too, because he could very easily say, I'm coming back. I should have been MVP this year. We're good. Our team's good. I love being here. I still love playing football. So boom, put to bed. And he hasn't done that. So that's
Mhm.
what people will gnaw on. And the hashtag keep going thing, Tom. I mean, I know what you're saying. I could totally see that being his retirement mantra, because I'm still going to be active. I'm still going to be performing. I'm going to be wearing my performance gear, and I'm going to be taking my performance electrolytes. I'm going to be eating my performance nuts. So don't think just because I'm not playing professional football, I won't still be active. I'm going to hashtag keep going, as you all should be as well. Join me in my pursuit of keeping going. and hit us up at TB12 and we'll roll through this thing together. So I just think it's just the fact that he won't close the door on it. It'll be a conversation every single year until he says one way or the other, I'm coming back or I'm done.
I think the breathlessness of it is what creates so much fatigue. The breathlessness of the coverage, that until he slams the door, until there's the light underneath the door goes out on the retirement conversation, we treat it like waiting for a new pope and the smoke to come out of the chimney at the Vatican. And he feeds it. To me, let's go through the reasons why it's unlikely he'll retire. He said he'd retire when he sucks. He doesn't suck. He's MVP candidate, might win it. Doesn't get hurt. The family stuff, to me, that is brought up so frequently with Gisele, it's been present since 2016. I mean, in 2016, early 2017, Gisele was talking about Brady's concussions. And we were talking about the proof of Jimmy not being traded as evidence that he was about to retire. 2018, he's coming off Tom versus Time that season, talking about how miserable he was. It's not fun anymore. April Fool's Day 2019, he literally tweeted that he was retiring. Obviously, it was April Fool's Day, but it was out there. And then obviously 2020, before he went to Tampa, there was rife speculation that he might step away. Why would he go someplace else? To me, playing professional football is a galvanizing aspect of the extended Brady family and the Brady nuclear family. They have something in which they can rally around. And as a parent of three, who were 3 years apart, you as the parent of two, in the position you're in, you know when you really need to be there? When they're 0 to 12. His kids are now 9, 12, and 14. They have stuff to do. So nobody needs dad present at the island in the kitchen going, where are you guys going? Oh, I got taekwondo. I have ballet. I have soccer. Well, I retired to be around you guys. And now they needed you around more to help pick up the toys. When you're at this particular level, there is plenty of merit in setting the example for your kids of setting goals, working toward them, et cetera. They've seen it earlier in their lives. They'll see it as much now and in a different light. And it's not like he's working for the Merchant Marines and he's at sea for 5 months out of the year. Comes home at night. So I don't see the family aspect as being that compelling, because it's not like it was in New England, grinding them down to sawdust. Phil? Sorry.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it's that. I think when he stops, it'll be because he doesn't feel like he has anything left to give. And not that he'll suck when he stops, because I still don't think that will happen. But I think he'll probably just be so exhausted and just so done with it that we'll probably know ahead of time too.
Yeah, I think the joy has to go out of it. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady, too, is not really at this juncture of his career one who is going to engage in an Irish goodbye. He's not just going to walk away. The old Tom Brady may have, the one who was here, especially the one who started here, who was very unassuming, very away from the limelight. But this one now, who has embraced his brand and understood that there is good I can do for my family, for businesses, for society at large, by advancing my brand, which is really truly what he believes TB12 and why he's so much an advocate of it, because there's good that can be done by it. Literally tens of millions of dollars to be made marketing his retirement. And the business of Brady can flourish more fully with that because it concedes so many post-career opportunities. He's not going to dive into retirement and just say, yeah, I woke up, no joy. He's not going to do it that way. He has to have something that matches the joy and enthusiasm to capture and captivate his mind in post-football life. And if he doesn't have it and doesn't have a plan for it, he's not just going to go, yeah, I was all done. I don't know what I'm doing today. Arrested Development. I started streaming. I started binging that last night. I needed something. So you're with me on that? You want to put a cork in Brady until he retires and we have to redo this?
I will not be doing anything of the like, but I do think the t-shirts alone. I mean, how much money are you pulling in with the, Brady's last dance or the GOAT's last,
Go
whatever.
to slaughter, something like that.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's not a businessman. He's a businessman, and he will be doing something of the like.
Well, I like that. That was good. That's
the only issue
from
is
a rap and roll song, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a rap and roll song. The only issue is, Tom, I don't think he's going to be going out with the Super Bowl. So that's not going to be a problem for him. I think the Bucs had their window, and he's still great. He is still great. But like Chris Godwin's going to be moving on. AB's obviously done. Gronk is very close to the end. They'll always have a shot with him there because he's that good. But you look at like the Chiefs and the Bills and some of these other teams right now, and it's like,
you look to it at the hierarchy, and there's probably a point in which Bruce Arians is starting to say, I'm just trying to come down to South Florida and run a team. And now I got this guy and it was great and everything, but people are starting to, I don't need the limelight on me at all times, and basically being called a puppeteer or a puppet actually. And a punchline.
Do you buy any of the, he's just sort of floating, or no, not floating retirement, but he's just not slamming the door shut because he wants to put it to the Bucs, and there are things that he wants, whether it's a new coach or another weapon or whatever. And he says, I don't know. Maybe I don't feel like playing next year.
Yeah, I think that's always one under appreciated aspect of the way Tom does things. And just speaking from experience into 2020, right after the 2019 season ended, there was a lot of maneuvering that was going on to try and pick the next place and make sure the next place was going to be perfect for him. And if he's going to continue, which is smart, look, if I'm going to continue, I'm not going to be sitting here in November with a 4-5 team saying, what am I doing? This is miserable. He's going to have something that he wants going the way he does, that he wants going forward, and that Bruce Arians wants going forward. I think Brady is non-confrontational. He's not going to say it's my way or the highway Bruce goes. I think it would be, and I don't think it is that way, but Brady is very much, call it 1B out of deference to the position of head coach, but he runs the team largely in a triumvirate with Arians and Jason Light. And that's how it is. That's how it will be. And that's the deal with the devil goat they made. So yeah, that's a good question by you, Phil.
Would he go somewhere else? What if there's another team out there that says, hey,
Matt Rule needs a quarterback.
What if Josh McDaniels ends up in Las Vegas and they get, they somehow land Devontae Adams or something crazy?
Tremendous amount of marketing opportunities in Vago. Tremendous amount.
Just saying.
And I mean, he could zip back and forth, but that's implementing the whole thing that he implemented in Tampa Bay just 2 years ago at 43. That's where the reboot, that's where it exhausts my ass, but my ass gets exhausted.
And then he won a Super Bowl. So maybe he just needs to go through that process.
Maybe he should just sprinkle himself around the league over the next 3 decades and play in every city, bring it a Super Bowl. There would be no disputing for everybody who's still out there saying he's a system guy.
What if that was the quote, like those production meetings where I thought those were off the record meetings, but maybe, I don't know, but I'm sure they maybe asked for permission or something like that to run that quote. But the quote was, yeah, I'd actually just love to play for all 32 and win one everywhere.
All right, Phil, let's push away from the Brady table now and talk what is pertinent to folks here in New England. We watched one of the greatest football games of all time. You can have Super Bowl 49 up there. You can have the 2008 Super Bowl up there. You can have 41-38, the hook and lateral Chargers Miami game from 1982. I am not talking Ice Bowl, folks. I am not talking 1958 NFL Championship Colts Giants. That is archaic crap, acting like Red Grange is the greatest running back of all time anymore. Cut the crap. 80 and on is what you talk about as the greatest games ever. Be that as it may, I've never seen a better game than what we saw on Sunday night. I thought it was Saturday. It all blended together. Quick appraisal on where that game stands, because I know you solicited opinions, and then we'll talk how far the Patriots have to go.
I did solicit opinions. I think it's in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how high up? You say you've never seen a better game, so it's 1 for you,
I've never seen
which is fine if it is.
Yeah, it's. I've never seen a game that unfolded that way, where it was high level performance. But look, we can talk about the Falcons and Patriots Super Bowl. You had one team throwing up all over itself, and then the other one performing. That's a memorable game. 2014, we have 2 generationally great teams, in my estimation, or of that period of time, not generationally, squaring off, and the Patriots having to find the Achilles heel of the greatest defense of that particular period, and finding it and winning in comeback fashion. That's the one that competes to me. But what about you?
No, I've got Super Bowl 49 probably as number 1. But then this, because the stakes, the finish, everything, the entire game, it felt like, I remember there was a time where it feels like decades ago now. And I guess it was 2 decades basically. But remember when the Panthers Patriots Super Bowl was thought as one of the best Super Bowls of all time? It feels like
it was
at the time, right? But where would it be now? It feels like it would be 10 now,
as a Super Bowl,
or lower than that.
As a Super Bowl, I think it's still probably 6-ish.
There was such a long stretch there where the Super Bowl was non-competitive.
And you're telling me, I was a kid, I built my entire life around the Super Bowl, and until the Bengals Niners and the Rams Steelers in 79, and then again in 81, those were great ones. Before that, it was 12 years of suck.
But even after that, I mean, those Cowboys Bills Super Bowls, or the Packers Patriots, I mean, those were not good games.
No.
So I think the stakes elevate 49 for me. But that, in terms of quarterback play, I think you'd be hard pressed. I know a lot of people are killing the defenses there, and they didn't play everything perfectly, obviously. But those quarterbacks were at the height of their powers on the same night. Again, trading blows. It was unbelievable. I just want to throw you one stat. I find this interesting. This is from Tucker Boynton. It's a great follow on Twitter, Tucker_TNL. So you remember, this became sort of a popular thing after the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl, the win probability chart, right? The thing that just goes nuts, right? So Tucker has a list of 6 plays in the playoffs that all happened in the last 2 minutes of a playoff game between 1999 and 2021. So over 20 years, plays at the ends of playoff games. Of those 6, and the top 6 are the biggest swings, right? So the plays that produce the biggest swings. 3 of the top 6 all happened in that game.
So basically, plays like the Julio Jones catch in Super Bowl, whatever it was, 51, 52, 53.
Even so, that one's not in the top 6.
But that's the kind of play that makes win probability spike.
Well, so you'll remember some of these. The Stephon Diggs, long Minnesota touchdown down the sideline, right, where he throws his helmet after. That's the number 1. The Music City Miracle play at the end
when they score it.
When they score, right?
But they're screwed too. They're going to win now.
Yes. So Josh Allen to Gabe Davis the second time was a huge swing. Mahomes to Tyreek Hill on the long touchdown was a huge swing, and Allen to Davis the first time was a huge swing. So anyway, basically you're talking about, of the top 6 biggest late playoff game plays. I'm surprised the Malcolm Butler pick's not in here, but of the biggest plays basically in the last 20 years in the playoffs, 3 of them happened in that one game. So I think that's a pretty good argument for that being your number 1 game, if it is your number 1 game.
Let's talk about what those plays mean to the Patriots quickly here. Whether it be Tyreek Hill and just the electric speed, or the ability of Mahomes and a top 3 tight end, Travis Kelce, top 2 probably. Or whether it be Josh Allen buying some time, having a 4th wide receiver who's adept enough to make a corner fall down and then throw a ball that's probably going 65 miles an hour and never gets more than 15 feet off the ground from 40 yards away. There's a lot to process about what those teams are able to do offensively, regardless if you're against the 75 Steelers defense, the Legion of Boom, whoever. Patriots have a ways to go. How much are you a prisoner of the moment if you're sitting there and go, they're going to be mired in mediocrity forever?
Well, I think that's strong. I think you can still contend and you can be there late in the year. I mean, to focus in on these 2 guys is one thing, but it also ignores 2 of the 4 quarterbacks that are left in the tournament here, and Joe Burrow and Jimmy Garoppolo, who I think Garoppolo, certainly, I would take Mac Jones right now over Jimmy Garoppolo.
Same.
And that's not even factoring in the money. I'm talking play on the field. So those 2 guys made it in. Joe Burrow's better than Mac Jones right now, but I think Mac Jones can get into that stratosphere. I don't think it's going to be a while. If he ever gets there, he's going to have to be a supercomputer processor
To get to Joe Burrow level?
to get to Allen and Mahomes.
Sure.
Right? Like that to me is
To just
highly
take
unlikely.
over a game. I just don't think the likelihood of him taking over a game in the same fashion where you can run a quarterback draw with him, have him run a naked bootleg and beat you to the edge, both of those on 3rd and 6, run over a linebacker or outrun an edge defender, or throw the ball the way he did, or extend a play so that you can have a Kendrick Bourne who could be if you put Kendrick Bourne on those teams, he'd be a good friggin' player. Okay.
Yes, he
And he's a
would.
good player now. But the point is, he has to do it differently. You're going to look some point, Josh Allen in the next 3 years is going to get hurt. Same thing's going to happen with Mahomes. It routinely happens with both those guys. And you'll say, well, that's the price you pay with those guys, Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert. He's got an opportunity to be effective in the way he does. Joe Burrow right now, 9 sacks is insane. I don't think that Mac Jones would take 9 sacks, but I don't think anybody's going to look at Mac Jones and the way he throws the football and say, I want his arm over any of these other guys.
Not right now. Like Burrow's the one that I look at and I say his arm's better than Mac Jones's right now, but his arm was not a selling point of his game when he came out of LSU. I think it's gotten a little bit better, and I think he's a little bit better athlete than Mac Jones, so he might be able to make some off-platform throws that Mac Jones can't make. But he's not an otherworldly athlete. He's not Allen for sure, and he's not even Mahomes. He's just a different type of player. He's a pocket passer, and he does take a ton of sacks. That's something he's going to have to work out of his game. That's another thing he did at LSU that he probably did more than people would like. Like, people look at the offensive line. I get it. Their line is bad. Don't get me wrong. But there were a handful of those sacks where, he's back there for 3 seconds. Like, you have to get rid of the ball. You've got great receivers. Trust your receivers. Throw it up there. Throw it away. Keep the play alive. Like, that was not I have a hard time calling that a good game from Joe Burrow the other day.
No doubt.
So, like, Mac Jones can get to that level. So that's just what I would focus on. He's not getting to Mahomes and Allen, but he could get to Burrow. He could be Jimmy Garoppolo. So there is a path to be one of the last teams standing.
We talked about that whole conversation at length on Early Edition. I have a column on NBC Sports Boston about how far the Patriots have to go. We're going to be talking about that all off season, so I'm not going to get too caught up in it. Phil and I just spoke about arm strength and Mac Jones. And this is a great spot to drop in an interview I had last week with Tom House. He is the throwing coach to the stars. Tom Brady et al. Phil, who else? They're escaping me. Everybody.
Well, he did have Matt Castle at one point.
Okay, started with Castle and then passed down. But obviously he is the coach whisperer to the throwing coach whisperer who succeeded Tom Martinez, Brady's longtime throwing coach.
Drew Brees is the other big name, the huge name that he's had. But I think he's been with every guy that has done that little dance that people love to look at and make fun of before games, that little quarterback warm-up dance. That's a Tom House dance. So Dak Prescott, I don't know if Eli Manning was with him, but I remember Eli Manning demonstrating on one of the Manning broadcasts for Monday Night Football. So everybody knows Tom House and
fire them hips.
Great he is.
Fire them hips. Here's Tom House on Mac Jones' arm strength and how much he can improve it. We'll be back right after. All right, we welcome back friend of the show, friend of throwers everywhere, the great Tom House, former Red Sox pitcher, the guy who caught Hank Aaron's 714th home run back there in 1974.
7:15.
7:15.
That's all right. You're doing great. I'll tell you what, you've already done your homework, but it was 7:15.
I didn't have to do my homework. I saw the pitching firsthand. I didn't remember you with the Braves, though. I wasn't that cognizant of baseball in 74.
Okay.
But you guys know Tom for all his work that he's done with throwers in the more recent past. Tom Brady among them. The 3D QB and the National Pitching Association are two ways that Tom works hands-on with throwers, but also I wanted to mention the Mustard app, which, Tom, give folks a quick and dirty summation of what that can do for moms and dads and young throwers.
Okay, thank you so much for setting it up for me. But what Mustard is our attempt to democratize or make available to a mom and dad of a 12-year-old son or daughter in the backyard with a cell phone exactly the same thing that a Drew Brees, a Nolan Ryan, or a Tom Brady would do when they came out and went through emotion analysis in our lab. So it's statistically validated, science-based. Here is exactly what your child is doing biomechanically to throw. And then you head out to the MPA or 3D QB to actually get the hands-on drills for the skills to, number one, keep your child or your athlete healthy, but also add in functional strength, mental, emotional, and nutrition and sleep for recovery. So it's a pretty tight little package. I'm really proud of it.
You should be, because, I think parents want to avail their kids of great opportunities to learn correctly. And they also want to, I think, try and delegate it, because I had 3 sons who played baseball. I still play softball with my 2 younger sons who are in their 20s. It's a communal thing that you are always going to have as a bond with your kids. And you don't want to be, the amount of time I spent saying, hey, your head's over here, keep your head. They don't need to hear it from me all the time.
Yeah, and you're dead on with that assessment. The third-party evaluation makes getting along with your kids a whole lot easier. And because you had sons, teenage boys have no frontal cortex whatsoever. And their purpose in life, once they hit 14 or 15, is to keep you frustrated and angry. So the fact that you can go to a third party and have it be actual, you can trust the information and the instruction, makes the sports world a whole lot more efficient.
Well, avail yourselves, folks, of that. And now we get to the nitty gritty for Patriots fans. I've expressed, much to the distress of many Patriots fans, that I think that Mac Jones is of average arm strength relative to the rest of the NFL. This is not the sacrilege that folks think that it is. This is not the heresy, and this is not damning. First, do you have any appraisal at all of the arm strength that you see from your coach of Mac Jones?
Yeah, from my standpoint, it's adequate. He hasn't got the same kind of arm that the kid with the Chargers has.
Mm-hmm.
But it's functional. He could get the throws done. From my observation, from a pure mechanical delivery, he's very efficient. He's very accurate. And if I had maybe one assessment, he may not be able to throw the deep route consistently, but he can throw enough deep to make it be effective around all the other things that Coach Belichick and his staff have him do. So it's great to have a superior arm, but that also doesn't guarantee a successful quarterback either.
Nope.
There's guys that have cannons for arms that, can't be a quarterback. I will
$1 million
say
arm.
I know I'm talking a little too much, but
No.
he could, if he wanted to, he could improve his arm speed and his arm distance. We have the capacity to do it. We've done it in baseball. I actually, from what I know about dealing with quarterbacks and pitchers, when they show up, very few of them have maxed out their genetic capacity to throw. And we
Now,
have, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tom, but when you look at Mac, and I wanted to reference this because we spoke to you in late September and you talked to Phil Perry about some of the mechanical things that Mac does, and you
Right.
praised him for his efficiency,
Yeah.
for his firm front side, for, the even head. And we saw that all year. We saw accuracy and anticipation. But as we get into the velocity and the throws that need to be made, most guys can rainbow a 60-yard pass.
Right.
However that has to happen. Justin Herbert, as you referenced, or John Elway are complete outliers who can throw a ball that far and never have it get more than 20 feet off the ground. It's insane that it's possible. But it's those throws that need velocity, that need to go. I think Tom throws probably low 60s, I believe, if that's accurate.
Well,
Go ahead.
here's something that you can hang your hat on. We can train the gene pool 3% better than what he shows up with. I can guarantee you that. We know that if you can throw a 1-pound ball, not a football, but a 1-pound ball, 55 miles an hour, you can throw a football 55 yards. So think about this. We did it with Andrew Luck when he was rehabbing. He couldn't roll a football or a ball 20 yards without pain in his arm. So rehab. We reevaluated mechanics. We reevaluated his functional strength. And I don't know if you remember, the football community was wondering when he was going to touch a football.
Yeah, put it off and put it off.
All we did was train with round balls, 2-pound, 1-pound, 6, 5, 4, 2-ounce balls. And we knew that 3 weeks before camp was to start, that he could throw a 1-pound ball about 55 miles an hour. So I knew right away that throwing a football 55 was possible. You add in a little game adrenaline, and he's right back to where he was pre-injury. So I don't know the farthest that Matt has ever thrown a football, but I'll guarantee you we can train him to do it. He can do the work and we call it repattern and retrain his delivery to handle consistent 60-yard throws if need be, if necessary. It's not always necessary. I think you've probably seen the stat. The longest pass thrown in the NFL this last season was the one that Justin Herbert did on the run, and I think it was 63 yards on the run. A 60-yard pass isn't completed very often in the NFL. But if Matt was to train to do it, I could look, Coach Belichick in the face and say, yeah, if you need him to throw 5 60-yarders this game, he can do it for you. But I think Matt would have to go through a retrain. Yeah,
with Mac, you're not going to have that many times. You dial that up maybe 3 times in 5 games.
Sure.
But the fast closing windows that are going to occur throwing from one hash to the opposite sideline.
You're exactly right.
It looks like velocity, a 10-yard throw, but it's not a 10-yard throw. It's a 40-yard throw.
Yeah. And with all the vectors going the wrong directions and all that stuff, yes, we can improve. And I'm confident that we can improve anybody's fastball or football velocity going through a protocol that we've actually worked hard on over the last 50 years. There is a ceiling, but very few athletes, tap on that ceiling on a regular basis. All we have to do is retrain, repattern to adapt and accommodate to 4 or 5 60-yarders in a week or 2.
How much naturally does a player begin to add? I mean, they say that your body changes every 7 years. Mac is probably not a fully grown adult male yet.
Right.
Being honest, he'll probably be at his strongest when he's 26, 27, 28. He'll throw harder then.
Yes.
Will he just go ahead?
There are windows of trainability, and you're setting this up like we planned this out for a month here. There are windows of trainability. your first window of trainability, age specific, is your nervous system. Second window is muscle and your functional strength. Third window is skill. And fourth window is third window is skill acquisition. And fourth window is skill retention. And you can work in any one of those windows and improve that window specific to reaching the next window. Like Tom Brady right now is in skill retention.
Mm-hmm.
And to have him retain what he did at 25 at age 45, we take him all the way back to his first window, which was neurological.
Really?
So Tom trains as much for speed now as he actually does for strength, even though he's not fast afoot, even though he's got plenty of strength. And by asking the nerves to work faster, in other words, in baseball, we throw a 4-ounce and a 2-ounce right along with the 5-ounce. And the brain and the nervous system actually pattern whatever arm speed is necessary to throw a 2-ounce or a 5-ounce at X velocity. It will carry to a 5-ounce ball, which is the regulation baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Brees is a perfect example. He threw a 12-ounce junior football in the offseason his last 5 years. He didn't even touch a regular weighted football until camp started. And by throwing the 12-ounce, the arm is going through the throwing motion faster. And there's a carryover.
That's funny. Because,
So
I mean,
it's
honestly,
called-
to interject, how many times have we, when we were in high school, gone over and picked up a JV football or a Pee Wee football that your hand almost goes around? You feel like Andre the Giant, and you
Yes,
throw it. Now you're throwing it differently because you can.
yeah, and if you do that enough, there's a carryover. Think about kids throwing a wiffle ball.
We do it the opposite, though. I always use those heavy basketballs to shoot with. Is that the
Yeah.
opposite of what I should do?
Yes, that's a strength, though. You need strength. You need enough strength to handle workloads. But if you want to throw for speed, you got to train for speed.
Oh, that's
Same,
funny.
Same with running. And it's not just the arm. Believe it or not, you can actually improve arm speed by running backwards downhill. Now think about that one for a second.
Improve arm speed running backwards downhill
Say
because
that
you're.
again. But because
Okay.
your body has to go faster going downhill backwards, the brain pulls off the regulator and allows the whole body, arm included, to move quicker. So we actually have protocols where we test for the speed that the legs provide in running, going forward and going backwards, for what the torso will provide in the acceleration and deceleration of torque in the torso, and how it literally translates into arm speed, acceleration, and deceleration.
I think you're trapping me, because now you're going to have me going out front, sprinting backwards down my incline driveway until I wipe out. And they go, I think that idiot Curran actually believed me, and he ran backwards down his driveway at
Just
54
make
years
sure
old.
that, running backwards, better run no more than a 6% grade. And you don't want sidewalk people or cars or motorcycles.
Anybody to be watching.
But it will actually not only improve your arm speed, but it'll make you more healthy. Because we have a tendency as we go through life to only work on the front side of our body when it comes to training, where you can only accelerate. You're making me smile here. I'm so happy we're talking. It's not often that I get a chance to throw this out there, but you can only accelerate what you can decelerate. And if you've got a quarterback that has basically his threshold is 50 yards, well, I'll guarantee you that if we trained his backside to work a little stronger and a little faster, he would be able to throw 55, 60, because his brain would say, okay, now we can accelerate because we can decelerate it. So you
Decelerate
see
meaning on the follow through.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all work on acceleration. Everybody does that from day one. But very few conditioning coaches, trainers, and biomechanists understand that if you can bring parity to the backside, it will improve the velocity that the front side can deliver. So 3 muscle groups accelerate the arm, 2 muscle groups decelerate. If you work the backside of your shoulder and arm 1/3 more than the front side, you'll improve your fastball and your distance just by doing that. Do the same thing with your torso and your legs. And everybody we get in baseball, when they show up the first day, I said, okay, I'm going to improve your fastball 3 to 6 miles an hour this weekend.
This weekend?
This weekend. Yeah, he has to continue to do the work, but we can show you how to improve it. It'll be 3 real and 3 perceived. With a quarterback, I look him right in the face and I say, look, I'll guarantee you that after 3 days of hanging out with us, if you go back and do the work, we will add 3 to 10 miles an hour to your football, which is 3 to 10 more yards on your long ball. Guaranteed, take it to the bank. They have to do the work. You just can't try it one time and show that you can do the gun, show it on velocity on the gun. You have to stay with it. But I have no doubt that he could improve his long ball just with a little extra smart work.
When you're working with Tom, and I think it was 2 years ago, where he was spending some time putting out some of the videos about how fast he was throwing, was that stuff that you and he were working on to maintain his velocity?
Yes.
Okay.
And with I can't tell you specifically what we're
No, that's
working
okay.
on, but I can tell you this: the quicker your feet, the quicker your release. The quicker you release, the farther you throw. So it has to do with ground force production. If a quarterback can speed up his footwork, he's creating more foot-pounds of energy in weight transfer that translate up the body and in effect put more foot-pounds of energy into release, and that's where the ball goes farther, faster. It's physics.
It is, and I'm, it's funny. Everybody learns differently, as you must realize over and
Without a
over and
doubt.
over again in your capacity. I'm more visual. I have to see it,
Right.
but in your explaining it, so I'm trying to envision. Okay, I see Tom Brady's feet when he drops. I see how his feet are always flat. I see how he rips his hips, but not his shoulder.
Yeah.
And
So what you're talking about is the kinetic sequence. And again, thank you for queuing me up here. There is timing into foot strike, which creates ground force production of energy to come up through the system. And then there's a sequencing. It basically, after the legs, it goes hips, shoulders, arm, and football. And what you just demonstrated, your visual was perfect. The hips go, then the shoulders go, then the forearm goes, and then the football goes.
it's the same thing with golf too.
It's exactly the same thing. That kinematic sequence is the same for golf, hitting, throwing a football, throwing a baseball. Any rotational athlete does exactly what you just talked about.
The sooner you get your hands out of your golf swing, the better off you are.
Yeah, hands.
Just turn
hands
everything and
have-
the hands follow.
Yeah, if you recruit out of sequence, you're asking energy to be misdirected, and misdirected energy is inefficiency and lack of performance.
All right. Well, listen, I think, and the upshot of this is Mac Jones had an outstanding rookie year relative to the rest of the rookie class. There's a lot to like about it. When you look at the things that he needs to improve upon, there's a couple of physical things, but he's already got some great mental acuity and poise and competitiveness.
Perfect. He has the hard stuff. What you just talked about, that's the hard stuff to teach, the hard, tough stuff to learn. The physical is really easy. So the challenge would be, maybe you and I ought to get in touch with him and ask him if he'd like to be able to throw 5 yards further with his long ball, or whatever it might be, or find out what his body is capable of doing. I'll guarantee you, between he and the trainers and conditioning coaches with the Patriots, they're already talking about it,
I'm sure.
or have already started the process. And again, you said it before I did. Mac has all the hard stuff figured out. And if it's just a matter of arm strength and throwing further, that's very trainable. And he's still right in the middle of his skill acquisition window. He won't peak with skill acquisition until he's 32, maybe 33. So the Patriot fans can be very proud and very confident that they've got a quarterback that will produce for the future.
All right. It's the throwing whisperer, Tom House. Really appreciate it. I might get on, see how fast I can throw, see if I can get up from 48 to 55 by the end of the summer.
And like I say, my wife is saying, don't worry about a comeback because Tom, you stunk the first time through this time. I'll pal around with you guys anywhere, anytime. Just let me know. Okay.
All right. Hey, appreciate you. Thank you so much, Tom House.
Okay.
All right. We appreciate Tom House a lot. We might revisit with him soon when we get it out to the Super Bowl. But Phil, I want to take one last swing at the OT rules. I think they should be changed, especially for the playoffs and playoffs only. 10-1 is the record of teams who win the opening coin toss. 7 of those games have been won on the opening drive. The only game that wasn't one of those 11 was the New Orleans and Rams game a few years ago, which was a brutally officiated game at the end. So it's broken for the playoffs. So just whatever you institute it for the playoffs. You with me on that?
That's fine with me.
I'm thinking about this. Do it the way it's designed right now. First 2 possessions. End up the same way. The Bills would have gotten the ball back. And then after that, go to alternating possessions beginning at the 45 plus 45. Far enough out. You need a first down to have a reasonable attempt at a field goal attempt. You only get 9. You're kicking a 53-yard field goal. I mean, that's kind of splitting the baby, but let it play.
How are you starting? The most important thing is the start. So is there a coin toss?
Coin toss, Bills win. They take the ball first. They go down with a full kickoff and run the thing.
And they score a touchdown.
Yeah. You got to try and match that. Try and match that, or you go for 2 or whatever. If you fail to match that, game's over. Okay. But the Bills would have had their opportunity.
But if you do match it, that's when you go to this 45-yard thing. Yeah. And then what if that continues in ties, like in perpetuity?
Fine.
Okay. That's the thing to me is
we should not beating the shit out of guys where, why does it get so pronounced in the playoffs, Phil, in your estimation?
Why does what get so pronounced?
Why is it so simple for these teams to win off the opening coin toss in the playoffs?
Well, because I think the quarterbacks are great, right? Like those teams that you mentioned off the top, like there's no quarterback in there that's going to threaten an opponent to score on 4 plays and score a touchdown and end the game. It's just,
oh yeah.
We're
so
talking about
yeah,
it's Trevor Lawrence is not striking fear into anybody in terms of doing that right now. But when it's Mahomes or Brady or Allen, like it's just whoever gets it first. And that's what get people upset. Number one, I do kind of feel for all the defensive people out there. It feels like every defensive person, former player, current player, defensive mind that I've seen tweet about this or put anything out into the ether about this, they all hate the idea of changing it because they have too much pride. They might have to set that aside because I do get it. Like I get that there is an inherent disparity there based on the luck of the toss. That to me is the issue. Mm-hmm. I think you could keep sudden death and get rid of the toss somehow, and people would be much happier, or at least they would be more willing to accept it. And like Tom, if the team that hosts the game, that had the better record, that had the higher seed, comes in and everybody knows this would change strategy at the end of the game, but everybody knows if you go to overtime, because that team was better than you in the regular season, they're starting with the ball. And if they go down and score a touchdown, it's over. Sorry, you should have been better. You had 17 game regular season to figure that thing out. I think people would be more accepting of that. They still would be unhappy that Josh Allen doesn't get a crack at the end. The only issue is with giving that other guy a crack in all these scenarios, whether you're talking about a 10-minute period, which Felger's talked about on our air, which I don't hate, just play a regular 10-minute period.
I hate it because then there's clock manipulation.
There could be clock manipulation, but there could also be ties there too. And now you're going to play another 10-minute period. Now you're talking about 80 minutes of football.
Yeah, I love mine. I'm a genius.
but yours could go on forever too. I just,
No, it
I
won't.
don't
It
mind
could go
sudden
up to
death.
6, but
I really don't mind sudden death. Football is a brutal sport. You're asking guys to play beyond their limits. You're asking for injuries. Whether it's one of these I mean, could you imagine if you're in minute 75 with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen tears his Achilles trying to run over a quarterback, and now the Bills don't have him for the next 2 games? Would people be happy that he had another shot at it? Or like, I mean, I know it's probably unlikely that happens, but you're asking a lot of the players. So I like sudden death. I don't like the coin toss. That's where I stand on this. So if you could figure out a way to get rid of that coin toss, whether it's record, whether it's bake it into the first coin toss, I've heard that idea thrown out there too. So, okay, one team won the toss to start the game. One team gets to decide at halftime. You're back to the first team in overtime. And that again would change the strategy. You would be changing how you play to avoid overtime potentially. If you know you're going to be behind the 8 ball. The issue is you don't know you're behind the 8 ball until that guy flicks the coin in the air, and that part sucks.
Too much chance. And when people say, well, you had all game to resolve it. Yeah, so did the other team. They had all game to resolve it. Hey, good talk. I'm sure we'll be back on this. I'm promising we'll be back on this. We're going to wrap it up now. We've gone a long time here. We got so much to talk to this offseason. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you Thursday.